So Leinster obviously was on over the weekend as well. We'll start off with Kilkenny and Galway, 28 points to 125. Now, like we're going to bring in the Louth and Offaly performance here in the Leinster football semi-final, and Sam Mulroy hadn't been having a great game for Louth, and obviously he came up with the goods in extra time as Louth got the victory there. And Mickey Hart was asked about it, and he said, "You don't take Messi off." And obviously we're not really trying to compare these players to Messi, but at the flip side, Henry Shefflin, he took off Conor Cooney and he took off Conor Whelan, and Conor Whelan, especially the last few years, has been the go-to guy, and somebody that you and I have, when we've done like top 5 rating of top 5 players in Ireland, we've talked about him regularly. So obviously we really highly rate him. But Henry decided, boys, you're not getting it done. Off you come. Threw in a couple of young lads, Liam Collins and Declan McLaughlin. They split the posts. And Galway, who had been struggling to get these scores, they pull it out of the bag. I think that was, obviously, it's brave from Mickey Hart in a way, but no one blames him for leaving him on. Whereas Henry put his neck on the block and it paid off.
Yeah, this was the thing maybe about Sam Mulroy is that Louth maybe rely on him. Yeah, you know what I mean.
These boys, Galway rely on these boys.
Yeah, true. Maybe not to the same extent. Like a lot of people would say that Mulroy is not only their best player, but he's built their attack is built around him. I think Hugh Lawler has. Not that he has Whelan's number, but he just seems to match up well with him physically. And he seems to be, like in the first half even, he was able to burst out and get to a couple of balls. Did you see the rob actually in the first half where Lawler had no hurl out? He might have been fouled.
It was a foul.
One of them might have been fouling, but he just nips in with the hand. That was brilliant. But yeah, listen, Henry, it's probably the perfect scenario for Henry in that he showed his squad that if you're showing up well in training, you will play. If X or Y or Colin or Conor Cooney or Conor Whelan aren't showing up, doesn't matter who you are in a game, we will take you off, we will throw whoever in. It was the perfect scenario for them. And the two lads came in and got scores. Just from a Kilkenny point of view, like they were kind of in control, should have been in control of that final few minutes and should have maybe controlled the final play a lot better. Like TJ putting that line ball dead was a strange one. It just gave Galway another opportunity. I thought he would have been putting it into the corner or playing a short one, trying to hold on to possession, maybe work a free. But fair play to Galway, having looked at different stages in the game that it might be slipping away from them, they just kept kind of trucking away. And yeah, good to see some new faces kind of standing up and getting scores when they really needed to. And realistically, they got a point out of a scenario where it looked like they were going to leave empty-handed.
Yeah, I mean, were you impressed by Kilkenny in this game? I was for spells. They were winning rucks. They were getting the ball out of there, but converting it into scores. They all 6 of their forwards had scored from play by 36 minutes. Yet to not see that game out, that's very un-Kilkenny-like. And I'm just wondering, is it getting to the stage now where we're starting to see the shortcomings in the panel? Conor Brown isn't there, Richie Lahey isn't there, James Maher. There's one other obvious name that I'm forgetting.
Mikey Carey was actually
Carey, the most obvious
had been away, but by all accounts he was he's involved in the squad or was with the extended squad the other day. He'd been travelling and is back, I think, but I don't know if he's involved in the training squad or whatever. But just go on to say, are we seeing kind of on Kilkenny like things happening basically, like in games where they're letting teams back in, maybe when the door should be shut?
Normally they would sort of close that out, wouldn't they? And there was a couple of rows late in the game, and you'd normally think that would fire up Kilkenny, especially in front of a home crowd. But no, and like if you look at it this year, the manner of the defeat to Tipperary in the league, then drawing a game that they'd normally win. Now, to be fair, Galway went there 4 years ago and they won on a day when Joe Canning was out injured. So that showed that Galway aren't, all that afraid. And Brian Concannon was on fire in this game.
Brilliant.
He was absolutely brilliant. But TJ Reid didn't look to be motoring too well. As I said, I watched one of the games with the father. I was watching the other one with the mother, and she said he just doesn't seem to be moving that well because he seems to be looking to pop the ball off very quickly. He got one from play, but outside of Owen Cody, and I thought John Donnelly, sure, look, we're always on about him. Thought he was very good. Adrian Mullen.
His hands are outrageous, and he's such quick hands as well.
Like he was 1/3 of the ginger half forward line for Kilkenny as well. I'm not sure if you noticed that, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Timmy Clifford is as well. Yeah, that's right.
Timmy Clifford, Adrian Mullen, and obviously John Donnelly. Much ado about nothing. Bringing that up.
We talked about this before though. Brian Whelan was a redhead. Henry Shefflin was a redhead. Richie Powers a redhead. A lot of the greatest hurlers to have ever played the game I've had red hair, and
Keane
we're
Lynch?
Keane Lynch, we're leaving out a heap more as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but listen.
We'll have to do a top 10 gingers, won't we?
I don't know how well that go down now, to be honest with you.
We get Nicole Kidman in there somehow as well.
Just on, like Kilkenny totally turned the screw at the start of the second half. And you're kind of, if you'd looked in with 15 or 20 minutes to play, you'd wonder how they would not win the game. And I think that would be disappointing from Derek Ling's point of view, that they just didn't see it out. Like, there's a couple of things maybe have happened. Like, I don't know, against Limerick in the league final, I wouldn't say they threw in the towel, but it wasn't maybe a typical Kilkenny finish where, they left everything out there and stayed going till the very end. And the other day, they had themselves in a winning position. Tony Doran was a redhead as well, Martin Furlong, he surely was. Another one to add to that list. I think we talked about that before on the show. Just on TJ, well, like, age might be coming into it as well, but he definitely doesn't look like he can cover the ground that he did before, particularly without the ball. I don't know if he's able to maybe defend as well as he would have been before. I think he's more kind of shadowing almost now, whereas before he was, tracking 60, 70 yard runs. I think teams maybe potentially are going to try and put him on the back foot now and going to try and make him maybe defend a bit more, because it doesn't look like maybe he's moving as freely as possible. Now, one of our commenters had it in earlier. It was a bad weekend for free takers. Basically, accept him. That's the one thing that you are guaranteed with TJ, that, nearly every place ball is going to be dealt with the utmost of care, and he just doesn't really miss.
21 against Galway last year.
Yeah, he was pulled off at half time the same day too. Yeah, what exactly are you trying to prove with that comment?
I'm just trying to catch you out. TJ's still a brilliant free taker. Just happy to catch you out.
I don't think you're catching me out. We're talking about the game yesterday, in particular. Shamie Callan missed. I saw Shamie Callan miss a free from 21 to Fitzgibbon as well. He missed one in league game against Clare in Cusack Park.
He missed two actually that day.
Yeah, so
Well, what's this? Out of nowhere attacking poor old Shamie Callan.
Well, I don't know if you're gonna. If you just your comment was a throwaway remark. But just on yesterday, did it seem like the blood and thunder of a championship game at stages of the second half? Maybe Kilkenny came out with a different intent after half time, but probably not in the first half at different stages. I have to give a word to Conor Fogarty as well. And we kind of said it in the preview show. Like, that game was tailor made for him yesterday. A tighter kind of ground, loads of big hits, loads of physical confrontations. I thought he was brilliant at different stages, and kind of left himself or taken off a couple of minutes to go, having emptied himself. But yeah, I think Kilkenny would be disappointed that they didn't see it out a lot better.
Yeah, I thought Joseph Cooney could have been a bit more careful with his shot selection. And there's a comment here from Stephen Loftus: Finton Burke needs to be starting, get Joseph Cooney up to the forward line. Kevin Cooney shows flashes at times. I'd say there's more to come from him. You can see, though, that Henry is looking at the next generation, and he's having to trust them. Like, he's putting Keenan Fahy out midfield, Ronan Glennon, a couple of other players like that. And, like, they are playing pretty well and they're developing. But, like, they're not going to get up to that championship pace in terms of consistency unless he leaves them out there. Like, from a Kilkenny point of view, you're salt to the earth. You're dyed in the wool Kilkenny man yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of the setup here? Like, so you've got Pádraig Walsh there. He's obviously taken off, but, he's been such a brilliant player. But interesting to see him taking off. David Blanchfield and Dara Corcoran, two lads in the middle eight, two big physical guys. Timmy Clifford, how did he do? Cian Kenny, he came in for Pádraig Walsh after 46 minutes. And I think refs have kind of just noticed now that he goes into contact and puts the two arms up straight away. He's not getting the freeze. His tackling probably comes. It's interesting that he seemed to be very much quickly established as a trusted lieutenant under Brian Cody, but Derek Ling doesn't seem to fancy him that much. But I actually think the positions that Derek Ling has used him in hasn't suited it. Like, he's been used half back, midfield, like centre forward. Maybe that idea that Cody did last year against Dublin in the round robin game, play him sort of as a third inside forward who comes and roams. maybe do a bit more damage there. But anyway, broadly speaking, the Kilkenny players who are trying to establish themselves under Derek Ling, what are you making of that?
Derek Corkin had a big second half. I'm a big fan of David Blanchfield, as you well know. I think his distribution of the ball has gotten a lot better. He doesn't maybe take on those kind of long shots as much as he did before. Pádraig Walsh, having played that kind of Barry Nash style number 4 all the way through the league, they seem to have abandoned that. He's just playing wing back now. It was probably quiet by his standards the other day. Timmy Clifford had kind of flashes. Donnelly was very, very
Sorry
good.
to cut across you, Mikey, but like you're talking about and we both see the value in trying Pádraig Walsh in a Barry Nash type role of driving forward and all that. But he was man marking players at cornerback at times, like against Aaron Gallan, it just didn't make sense. So I'm wondering, is Derek Ling looking at what he tried and being like, you know what, it's safer to put Pádraig Walsh wing back instead?
Well, I think the thing is that if you're an opposition manager and you see Pádraig Walsh lining out a cornerback, you know what role he wants to play. So he wants to play that drifting out kind of role where he's going to nearly an auxiliary halfback or in around centre back. So if I was an opposition manager, I'm sure you'd be the same. You're going to say, we're going to get him to mark, and we're going to get him to mark a dangerous inside forward, and we're going to put him where he doesn't want to be. Like, cornerback is the most unforgiving position in the world. There's some difference between playing the Barry Nash kind of roving role and marking in the full back line. They're worlds apart. And I think a good few opposition managers have maybe cottoned on to that. And Derek Ling probably realised we probably need to release this lad to the wing back slot maybe. But again, he probably was disappointed kind of by his standards yesterday. Still not sure. I don't know. Haven't got a proper read on Kilkenny. And when are you going to get a proper read on them now as well? Really, they've played the second best team or the best team in Leinster yesterday. Probably the next time you're going to get a really, really, really accurate read is probably in the Leinster final when they play the same opposition again. But again, that's a different world to go and play in Limerick or go and play in Clare or even go and play in Tip in a quarter-final/semi-final. So hard to know what to make out. All I know is that they'll be disappointed to have left a point behind yesterday because they had it in their hands and just didn't see it out well.
Yeah, Alan Fitzgerald might tell us if he's a Limerick man. Strange that the head-high tackles are not worth a mention this week. Are they only dangerous and need to be wiped from the game if a Limerick player does it? Do you know there was a time when Jack Grealish, I can't remember who
Mikey Butler,
he didn't connect with his head. And it was kind of like, so I thought the most was made of that by Mikey Butler. And they showed the replay a couple of times. He did not make contact with his head. And it was interesting to see Henry Shefflin at Nolan Park shouting to the referee and the linesman about players jumping on the floor. So saying that about, the county that he's so famous for playing, it's very interesting to see that happen because, it'd be understandable if he felt a little bit sheepish going down to Nolan Park with an opposition team first time in championship. But he's like, no, I'm here with this team and I'm gonna make all the calls for them.
Yeah, I think it's kind of admirable, really. Would he be doing that somewhere if the game has been played somewhere else? Would he be doing that in Salt Hill? I'd say he would. Now, would he be doing it if Brian Cody was on the line? Would he be accusing the Brian Cody managed team of diving? Isn't maybe another story. But
after what happened last year, I'd say he wouldn't care.
Maybe so, but he's definitely all in anyway. I'll put it to you that way. It was strange to see it though. It definitely was strange to see it. I think Galway got more out of that game probably than Kilkenny did, just by the fact that they got a heap of new faces in. They all made a mark, particularly near the end. I agree with John Kevin Cooney. There are flashes, just probably a couple of bad enough wides from good opportunities, but there are definitely flashes where you're thinking this lad could catch light. Like, he's good ball winner, he's good striker, he's mobile, he's kind of awkward, but in not a bad way necessarily. He poses a different kind of a problem. But could I see him, hitting 4 points in a big championship game later on this year? I probably could.
ComMPco Productions, I think. ComPco. Anyway, since you love early power rankings beyond belief, who do you think is the front runner for Hurler of the Year?
Wow.
Ryan Taylor.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All-Star last year.
It's just I don't know. The All-Star committee don't seem to see what we see within him anyway. John Conlon potentially, just at the moment. If Claire Shane O'Donnell will be in the mix, like what Limerick player are you pulling out at the moment? Probably Tom Morrissey, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Hayes has had some moments as well, to be fair. But yeah, probably Tom Morrissey more so. Yeah, Jake Morris.
Here's one for you. I said this to somebody the other day. Will Garrod Hegarty still win an All-Star this year?
After a red card, being brought on as a sub and probably not doing what we expect him to normally do, he's going to have a huge... Well, like, potentially they still have another 5-6 games left, depending on what route they go. So, yeah, it could happen.
And realistically, he's going to be rated on potentially a Munster final, All-Ireland semi-final, and the All-Ireland final. So I think he actually probably still will win an All-Star. Owen Cody was mentioned there. Owen Cody was he was brilliant yesterday. There was just there's a couple of balls that he got his hands on. I don't know how he did. Like he was even down low, and then there was that stage, and we'll chat about now in a second. Like when he soloed in a championship match with his left hand, like that is like I haven't seen anything like that before, and it gets us to talk about the greatest feats of ambidexterity in the GAA. But that is definitely one. I'd never seen anything like that before. There was a one in tennis. Sharapova, when she was caught to one side, she used to play her left hand on top, a double-handed backhand. And it's just really weird to see. Obviously, Ronnie O'Sullivan is probably one of the greatest ambidextrous players in the history of any sport. But give us a couple of other kind of GAA instances, maybe.
Yeah, did you say Lee Chin took a free on his weaker side over the weekend?
Yeah. Not the stand side, the terrace side. Wexford had a free near the end, and he took it off his left-hand side. I'm wondering whether that's him showing that he can take off both sides, or whether there was an issue with his shoulder or something maybe at the end of the game. But I think Rory O'Connor ended up getting a point out of it. Obviously, two of the best footballers we have at the moment are both left and right. And I know Walsh was kind of it was queried on the Sunday game recently about him taking a free off or a 45 off his left hand side that was kind of in the middle, but they're obviously two of the best. Like it's not ambidextrous, what's the word for it?
Well, I made up the word pedidextrous, but I don't actually think it's a word.
We'll go with that.
Do you know, there's plenty of snooker players out there who play with both sides. Brissell tried it the other night. Obviously, he's in the final. No, lots of them tried it. I can't think of other ones off the top of my head.
Anthony McGill tried it the other night and missed an awful shot playing left-handed in one of his games in one of the crucial frames against Sai in the quarter-final, actually. Trump
What's
plays
his nickname? What's Anthony McGill's nickname?
Oh, I don't know. McGillicuddy Reeks, maybe?
I'm going to look it up here and see if we can find it.
I'm not
the
sure.
Smiling Assassin, Licensed to Thrill, the Glaswegian Gladiator, and the Glasgow Bus. So, yeah. The best nicknames are in snooker, though, aren't they?
The Thunder from Down Under.
That was Neil Robertson.
Neil Robertson. The ace in the pack. It's Judd Trump.
Anthony Hamilton.
The Robin Hood of snooker.
The Sheriff of Pottingham.
Yeah, was he not called the Robin Hood of snooker at one stage as well? No.
Maybe. Yeah.
Sheriff of Pottingham is amazing.
Yeah. And I saw a comment there at one stage, people asking who's going to win, or there was one commenter asking who's going to win between Mark Selby and Luke and Brissell. So it's 9-8 Brissell at the moment. Yesterday, didn't really get a chance to watch much of it. I was at the Crucible earlier in the week, as we talked about, and I've booked tickets for next year for both the semi-final and final, and I can't wait to get back there. But Brissell is brilliant to watch. It couldn't be more of a clash of styles, oil and water.
Completely different. I thought Selby would win handy now, being honest with you. I thought he'd have him broken down with the second session, but I think Selby will win about 18-14. Cannot see him losing. Yeah,
but people couldn't see Brissell winning when he was 14-5 behind against C, and when he had to win 7 in a row against Ronnie.
Outrageous. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Maybe his name is on the trophy. I don't think so, but maybe.
And he's class to watch as well. Anyway.